Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the CEO and founder of Authority Ghostwriting, no other than Mr. Nick Pavlidis.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Nick. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. Well, just over 10 years ago, I was a lawyer. I had practiced law for 13 years, the first 10 of which was at a office of a large law firm in New York City, and worked my tail off, worked way too much, had a young family, and just needed to, to figure out something better to do with my life. So, like most people who wanted to make good money and have a good life, I decided to not be a lawyer and become a writer instead, which is really the opposite of what people do, right? They go back to school, they fight to try to make a living with their passion, and sometimes through lack of connection, lack of information, and the needs that we all face in life, they end up going back to school and becoming that lawyer, letting their dream die. I took the opposite approach, and in 2015, I discovered ghostwriting. I had no idea what ghostwriting was. I had heard of it before, but I didn't really know what it was. But I knew that it was, or I learned that it was something that could really, that was a high value in the world, especially as self-publishing allowed more people to release books, and the more people got comfortable with self-publishing, the more demand there was for ghostwriters and for quality writing from people who had money but not time, or who had a message but not the talent to write it out in a clear, concise way. And so I tried to figure out how to become a ghostwriter, and I asked around. I found some mentorship. Nobody really had a great plan. And so it took me a while. I committed to doing it. It took me about 6 months plus to find my first client. But I got my first client in December of 2015. And then I got my second client a few weeks after that, my third client a month after that, my fourth client. And all of a sudden I cracked this code. And in less than 8 months after I got my first client, I was able to quit my job, and I have been ghostwriting full time ever since, now closing in on 10 years.
Mr. Nick Pavlidis, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So let's talk about generate multiple streams of income from any book without being salesy. How do you find multiple streams of income when it comes to selling a book?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that keeps way too many writers from making good money and from being able to turn the message in their heart or a method that they have in their head into a real income. And there are so many people who think, "Oh, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to sell a million copies, and then I'm going to be able to retire, or I'm going to still have to have my day job at this company, or as an accountant or as a lawyer or whatever it is." And so when I started ghostwriting, my clients would ask me, "What do I do with this thing now?" Or, "How much do you charge for ghostwriting? How am I ever going to make, how many books do I need to sell to make that money back?" And so I became obsessed with helping crack the code for authors to be able to take that same message or the method and package it in different ways so people would pay a lot of money for it. And then I created a process where, rather than waiting for that book to come out, because the book with this process becomes just one method of generating revenue from your message and from your book, the book sales. It's just one, and often the smallest piece of it. And so I created this method where we started creating that income before the book was even published, and in doing so, I realized that all a book really is a method of communicating with somebody. It's, we write something down on a page and we deliver it to them. And after hundreds of years, thousands of years, that writing it down on a page and giving it to someone turned into putting it on a computer screen in an ebook and delivering it to someone, and recording the audio and delivering it to someone. And so we've had these multiple ways of delivering a message in the book world, but it's all been focused on just different types of books. But then I realized, okay, well, giving a speech on stage is the same thing. You're just giving a little condensed version of your message. And creating an online course that people who don't consider themselves readers could access to learn is another way. Starting a podcast is another way. Being a guest on other people's podcasts is another way. And there are countless ways that you can take the same message that you put, even in a fiction book, that same point that you want to get across, that feeling of self worth or that empowerment or that forgiveness message that you have and that you deliver through even a fiction book. You can package that same message in different ways and promote it without being salesy to people who need that message. And so the big picture of how do you take this book and create multiple streams of income, it's by creating other ways for people to access that information through you in ways that they already spend a lot of money. And so I had one client make over $600,000 because of his book before it ever came out. And it had nothing to do with reading. It was he was on a podcast, he's spreading the message about his book, and people said, "Wow, I love that message. I'm going to reach out." And a number of people reached out, and he has a very high-end service that he ended up making a whole lot of money because of his book. And so that's the short answer is find other ways to deliver the message for people who are never going to read your book or who are never going to read an ebook or who are never going to listen to the audiobook to access that same information. And depending on the types of information and the ways that you deliver it, people will spend a lot of money. They'll hire you as a coach. They will hire you to consult to their company. They will hire you to do a service. If you have a book about sales, they might hire you as an outside salesperson to do a service for them. If you have a book about digital marketing funnels, they might hire you to build them a digital marketing funnel. And so we need to identify what the end goal that you have for this message. You want to be screaming it at the top of your lungs? Well, if you have 10 people who are willing to pay you $1,000 a month to do a service for them that's related to your message, that's a pretty that's a pretty good income for you to be able to perhaps transition out of that day job in an unrelated field that you feel you must have. And so, how do you create that? Just deliver your message in different ways. And that's the simplest way to put it. Obviously, there are details and not complications, but there are details and strategy that goes into it. But a lot of people don't consider these other ways to deliver that, and they end up having to work jobs they hate because of it.
Very well said, Mr. Nick. Very well said. Why is it important for authors to think beyond just a book sales?
It is almost easier to sell one person on a $1,000 offer than it is to sell 25 people on a $20 book. You can make fewer sales and not have to be salesy by selling or communicating value through an offer that other people buy. So, for example, I just got hired by someone to coach them on writing their book. And I'm a high end service provider. So my coaching fee is $25,000 currently. I don't even have to write the book, but just coaching him through creating this book, creating these multiple streams of income, and making it and making it a plan and making it clear on how he's going to progress from this message that he has in his heart all the way to being hired to develop content for, in his case, sort of like the travel industry, so to speak, is high value. And so, if authors are thinking about, hey, who pays money for something related to this message, they really can be able to spend more of their life talking about and performing services about something they're really passionate for. And so if you're only thinking about writing a book, it's really hard to make money. You sell a book, if you have to convince 25 people to spend $20 on a book, and you'll be lucky to make 5 or $10 from that if it's self-published. And so you got to convince 25 people to read a book. And the idea of reading a book, you're not just asking them, but if someone sees a book on a shelf, I'm a big book guy, but if someone sees a book on a shelf, they say, "Oh, that's going to be 2 to 10 hours of my life that I need to spend on that." It's a big, big, big investment of time, even though it's a small investment of money. And so a lot of times books will go unread. You might sell a book, make $5 or $10, but you got to find a lot of people to buy them to make any real income. And so if you can shift your focus to $2,500 to speak on stage, $25,000 to speak on stage, and you focus on who are the people who care so much about my message that they pay for this and they can feel your passion and you can communicate clearly to them. You don't have to be salesy. You can reach out and say, "Hey, I see you host an event like this. I'd love to know how you choose speakers." They tell you, and you say, "Great," and then you can apply. And it's really applying for things like that. Or you're just having the regular conversations in life, and people feel sales is really just a transfer of energy. And so if you're excited about your subject matter and some of the things that you're doing with it, like for me, I help people write books and publish books and promote books. And you hear that I get really excited when I mention this client had $150,000 worth of speaking and consulting the year their book came out on a subject matter they had no reputation on before they wrote the book, or the guy who had over $600,000 in revenue, or the other guy who was able to quit his job in the financial world and now hosts men's retreats for people and takes care of his family doing that. Like when I share excitement about it, people think, "Can you help me too?" People will end up asking you. They'll sell themselves to you rather than you have to sell them. And so if you have these additional offers that you create based on your message or your method ready, and just have simple conversations where you're talking about it and you get in the right rooms with people, that could be virtually in a Facebook group, in a LinkedIn group, or if there's a local sports card event, you just go and go with a couple friends and talk to people. You'll be in the room with the right people having conversations. And it's 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 odd to say, but magic just simply happens. I can't tell you the last time I've sold anything, but I have a lot of great conversations and get hired a lot. And so it's so important because it's easier when you have a high end offer that you are excited about in terms of how it benefits the people that you serve through it. It's easier to sell a 1,000 or a $10,000 package to 10 people than it is to find 25 people to buy your book.
Totally interesting, Mr. Nick. Thank you so much for empowering us. What are the some common mistakes authors make when trying to monetize their book?
So the number one mistake by far starts well before they even write their book. And so the number one mistake when trying to monetize your book is not that you didn't write a good book to sell, it's that you wrote the wrong book. And if you write the wrong book, the worst thing that can happen is for it to be a runaway success because you're going to have the wrong people calling you. You're going to attract the wrong attention. And so if you find yourself having a hard time going out and talking about your message and you feel really salesy trying to sell your book, odds are there's a disconnect in your energy. And so I always tell people, say that, hey, 3 years from now, before we start a book, I get hired. I say, listen, before I write this book with you, 3 years from now, what's your dream life? What's your dream career? And I always phrase it as, what do you want to be talking about all day? Because if you want to, like, if I ask you that question and you're an accountant and you just think about talking about accounting all day and it drains you and you just say no thank you, I don't want you to write an accounting book. In fact, I had a real estate lawyer contact me one time and he said, "Hey, you come really highly recommended. I would love to hire you to write a book." I said, "Great, what do you want to write a book about?" And he said, "Real estate law. I wanted to grow my real estate practice." I said, "Well, what do you like about your practice?" And he said, "Well, I don't really like it, but I just need the attention so I can make more money from it." And he said it nicer than that, of course. But the point was he didn't like his job. And I said, "Listen, I respect you a lot. This is how I take care of my family by getting hired to write books with people, but I can't write your book." And he's like, "Why not?" I was a lawyer. I could, the subject matter was easy. I said, because when I work with someone, my goal is to help you become a tremendous success. And if we write this real estate book 3 years from now, you're going to have people calling you to help them out with real estate. And you're just going to hate your life. You're going to hate your book. You're going to hate me. And you're not going to market your book. And so it's so much easier to market a book. So when you ask, what's the number one mistake that people make when marketing their book? It's that they wrote the wrong book. It's they wrote a book that they know inside, it might be subconsciously, that the more people who know about it, the worse their life is going to be. And so they end up making mistakes, or they procrastinate marketing, or they just don't market their book because they don't want more people to know about it. And the best thing that they can do is just, it won't get them out of bed. The best thing in their heart, not necessarily in their mind, that they can do is just never mention their book again. So if you write the right book, then that makes it so much easier. And if you set up high-end products, and that doesn't mean you have to be charging everyone $10,000, but if you have something to sell for $500 and $1,000 or even $10,000 or more, you focus your attention on selling enough of those, not being salesy, but communicating about those offers to the right people, that you don't even care if you sell a book. You'll give your book away as fast as you can, because you know for every 100 people who get your book, someone's going to hire you for $1,000. And 100 people who buy a $20 book, that's $2,000. Your profit, if it's a buck or two, let's say it's a $5 book, and you have a royalty for a self-published book, you make $500 by selling 100 books. Or you could sell one, I'm going to give away my book as fast as I can, and I know one person's going to hire me for $1,000. You make twice as much in profit, because that is for a service, and you are just marketing your book as a way to lead to bigger things. So number one, they write the wrong book. Number two, they focus on selling the book rather than marketing the message, and have the book just be one vehicle of delivering the message. And then, of course, number three is marketing the book in such a way that it's a dead end. All I have is the book. I don't have any way for those people who are really motivated and have a budget and want to engage me on something that's so important to hire me to do more with them, because it's really, really hard. There's a phrase, and one book that I highly recommend for this concept is a book by Russell Brunson, that's called .com Secrets. There's also Expert Secrets. Expert Secrets is a great book. In fact, the first edition of those books were published by the publishing company that I run, Morgan James Publishing. And so this is a great book about how do you create this ladder of value that will people will allow people to pay you a lot of money for what you can share with them in terms of information. And so if you market only the book, you and you can, let's just say you get $5 per book in profit, which would be really, really high. Only a self-published book, really, and there's all sorts of complications. Then you can only afford to spend $4.99 to acquire a customer before you start breaking even and losing money. And if you are going to be spending money on digital marketing, Facebook ads and things like that, it could cost 20, 30, $40 to acquire a customer, because you're interrupting them. You pay for these clicks, and it might cost 30 or $40. So if all you're selling is the book, you can't afford to market your book with anything other than sweat and effort. But if you have higher tiered, higher priced offerings that hit those people who don't want to read a book, they'd love to listen to the audiobook, or they'd love to get a course, and they'd pay you 100 or 500 or $1,000 for that course related to your book, that your average customer value who goes to your website to buy your book might end up being $50. And because 10% of them buy your $1,000 course. And so now, if you lose money on 8 or 9 out of 10 customers because you're spending $30 and you're only making $5, but that other 10% gives you $1,000 each, then all of a sudden, that's where these big profits come from, and it frees you up to market more and better. And so those are really, and I know we were talking about the number one mistakes, but those are the three biggest mistakes that you can make. You got the wrong book, you're marketing with a dead end, and You're essentially, um, you're not trying to sell the book and not the message, and then you don't have that high end value that allows you to be able to take care of yourself and have some money left to promote your book itself.
So, Mr. Nick, what will be your short-term and long-term goals as a CEO and founder of Authority Ghostwriting?
Short term, with Authority Ghostwriting, um, we are looking to work with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, coaches, consultants, business people, who want to create a book that gives them that freedom and flexibility to get their message out there. And so I have a program called Ghostwriter School where I teach writers how to become ghostwriters. And on the short term, I source additional writers from Ghostwriter School who sort of prove themselves over time as being reliable and talented and professional, to join me on projects or on multiple projects. And so over the short term, I would love to meet more entrepreneurs who get it. They get this model, and they're willing to invest in themselves and take the big picture view and not just view books as checking the box, but really lean into, I have this message and I want to get it out there. It really helps with people who have an audience already who are paying them a whole lot of money, because then you already have some of those big assets and you just take that book as a different way, as a way to attract additional people into those assets that you already have. So I'd love to expand the impact that we're able to do. In the long term, I would love to build more relationships with authors who already have books. So one of the things that I do is I help authors through Authority Ghostwriting and some other businesses I either own or control. Um, I help them set these systems up, build out these marketing funnels, build out the back end of these systems, build out automations to guide people through the options of working with an entrepreneur. And so over the long term, I would love to get 100 authors who already have a book and are looking to invest a little bit into creating this ecosystem of multiple streams of potential income, um, eh, and set them up, help them get set up with funnels that perform in a different way. Most funnels require you to spend $5,000 or $10,000 on book inventory, pay to ship it to a warehouse, pay to store it at a warehouse, and then pay $7.69 every time you sell a book to drop ship. You end up $15, $20 into a book, but you before you ship it, or every time you sell it, which is fine. It's profitable if you have something on the back end, but you need to spend $5,000 or $10,000 on inventory in order to do it. So I set up a system where you can do all that without the inventory by essentially print on demand your book whenever it ships, whenever it's ordered. So you can spend that $5,000 or $10,000 on marketing to start building your audience and building your email list and selling those higher uh, ticket offers. So I would love to get connected with authors who want to sell books on their website or on a digital marketing funnel and have them drop ship from a reliable bookseller. And one of the businesses I own is a bookstore that has relationships with book printers and publishers that will drop ship books for them. So short term, have more authors come in so I can bring up more people from Ghostwriter School to be able to open up their income to ghostwriting, through me and with me. And then long term, I want to build 100 additional authors, who want to sell regularly. They don't need to sell thousands and thousands of copies, but who want to sell regularly and not have to spend $5,000 or $10,000 on inventory, and potentially lead up this value ladder to say, hey, you bought my book. Do you want this course, or do you want my coaching? Do you want to book a call to talk about ways I can help you more?
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Nick. And what would be your advice for those people out there who want to be a ghost writer too?
Yeah. So ghostwriting, successful ghostwriting is more about the business than the words. So if you have a talent and passion for writing, you don't need to learn how to write every single type of book before people hire you. If you just know that I'm going to show up professional, I'm going to work my tail off, and I'm going to learn how to create this specific type of content when someone hires me for it, then getting started, committing to being consistent, being professional, and being honest with people is all you really need to get started. Just tell people I'm building a ghostwriting business. I'm a talented writer, and these are the types of books I want to write. If they ask you, have you written anything? Nope. I've written this, whatever it is. You don't have to have a portfolio, but I am committed to making sure you love your book. I'm learning this, and that's why my fee is not going to be as high as it will be a year from now or 2 or 10 years from now. And then if someone says, great, I want to hire you for a memoir, literally go to Amazon and get a book on how to write a memoir and follow the directions. And if you're upfront and honest with your clients about it, they understand, they appreciate you. And how do you find these clients? Relatively simply, just start telling people you're building a ghostwriting business. Don't go on freelancer sites. Don't spend money on advertising. I have been busy and almost overwhelmed with work consistently since 2015, December of 2015. And I've spent zero, technically $22.55 on advertising for my ghostwriting business. It's all through simple conversations and going through. So just get started, be professional, and then don't wait to get started until you know how to write all 2,500 different types of writing people would hire you or might hire you for, because they'll hire you for the 2,600th one, and you all that learning is just waiting. Get started, and then when you get hired for something, learn how to write that as you're doing it.
Thank you for your advice, Mr. Nick. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, Food 101, and its fifth season, People fifth season, with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are talking about, or we're reading our letter senders all over the world. So please do listen, Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Nick, what is the one creative income stream idea that most authors overlook?
Probably coaching. There are a lot of people who position themselves as coaching, um, as coaches, but they don't promote them. I'm a coach who wrote a book as opposed to an author who can coach you. That said, I would probably recommend done attaching done for you services to it. So even coaches, so the, even coaches, if they're willing to do done for you services on a one-on-one basis, they would hit their income way faster than waiting for someone who just wants to pay for coaching or trying to be the thought leader. If you look at some of the people who are well known in the entrepreneur space and the coaching space and the education space and all those places now, 10 years ago, they were probably doing the service. They were probably doing marketing for companies. They were probably doing um, tech builds. They're probably doing website builds, and now they teach people how to do websites. And so it's it doesn't sound creative from it, but so many writers, if they have a message on for even forgiveness, and they design like, how can I forgive? Well, I can teach you how ways to work on forgiveness where we check in. I have a service where I reach out to you every day and say, what's one thing you need to, you need to forgive, or what's one person you need to forgive today, and just be active. And people pay more money for that one-on-one and then use that to fund it. Way too many people try to say, oh, I have this message, I'm going to build a big program and I'm going to have 100 people in it who are each going to pay me $100 a month. It just never works out that way. Start out by being um, committed to one-on-one coaching, one-on-one service connected to your book, and then let that one-on-one take up as much of your time as it does and force you to do things from there. Because if you try to build your way up with low ticket, it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of effort. And so start high ticket and work your way down from there into as you grow your impact in your audience.
Mr. Nick Pavlidis, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support you as a coach, as the CEO and founder of Authority Ghostwriting?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just go to authorityghostwriting.com. You'll find my email address there, nick at authorityghostwriting.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Nick Pavlidis because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books to come. So, Mr. Nick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
More to come, people. See you soon. So, Mr. Nick, thank